Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I rise as a Member of Parliament for a very agricultural constituency, the product of a farming family. In fact, I think I've still got a place on offer at Harper Adams if this career doesn't work out. Former Minister for Agri-Tech, former Trade Envoy and Chair of the All-Party Group for Agricultural Science. This is a major moment when we take back control of farming policy from the EU after 40 years and take back control of our trading destiny and sovereignty. It is on a par with 1947, the last great reset of agricultural policy, or indeed the Corn Laws. And I want to start by welcoming this agricultural bill and the work of ministers and officials at DEFRA in setting out a framework that supports commercial British farming, a great British industry, leading in the world, and recognising that their important environmental work, managing 70% of our land area, requires additional support. So I broadly, strongly welcome this bill, and I even more strongly welcome the Conservative Party commitments in our manifesto and over the last 18 months from the Prime Minister, the Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, my right honourable friend, the former Secretary of State for DEFRA at the time of the last election, and indeed everyone asked about our commitment to making sure that we do not in any way undermine those standards. The Prime Minister put it beautifully himself. We will not accept any diminution in food hygiene or animal welfare standards. We will not engage in some cutthroat race to the bottom. We are not leaving the EU to undermine European standards. It couldn't have been any clearer. And for that reason, I also welcome comments from the Secretary of State for Trade and Industry, my friend and neighbour, the Member of Parliament for South West Norfolk, and her agreement to the Agriculture and Trade Commission, and her own personal commitment to ensuring that we don't negotiate away any standards. This really matters to British farming and agriculture, a great industry, to consumers out there watching today who want to know that we're looking after their interests, and to voters to whom we on this side of the House gave those solemn commitments last year. And dare I say it, Madam Deputy Speaker, to this party, which I have always seen as a party of the countryside, of stewardship, of rural community, of high standards of animal welfare and environmental farming. That is what is on the table tonight in this vote. We are that as a party, or in my view, in the countryside, we are very little. This should be a hugely exciting opportunity for us to set out an ambition to lead globally, to use our trade leverage, to promote fair trade around the world, to give our farmers a level playing field, to embrace variable tariffs, to help make sure that we support growers around the world to follow the standards we need them to embrace. Madam Deputy Speaker, we have to double world food production on the same land area with half as much water in 20 years. That is a massive opportunity for our agri-tech industry. Imagine if we used our tariffs variably to say we won't accept food that breaches our minimum standards, we'll low tariff decent food, but we'll zero tariff food produced in ways that we know we need as a global community. But there is a major problem. The government is today, despite endorsing all of that vision, stripping out the proper establishment of the commission that the Secretary of State herself has agreed to, carefully negotiated in the House of Lords, asking us to rely on CRAG, a process agreed years, decades ago, not for this process, not designed for it, and one that means this House will not have the say on trade deals, and asking us to rely on the WTO, which we know specifically prohibits animal welfare and food production standards as a legal basis for any trade restrictions. We're saying we defend farming and the standards that we support, but denying this House the means to guarantee them.
Will you give way?
I'll happily give way to my friend.
I'm most grateful to my honourable friend for giving way. What else has he done about how he feels about this? Has he written to anyone about it?
And I'm very grateful to my distinguished and honourable friend. The truth is, we can talk about standards, but if we expose UK farmers and growers to imports coming in at a lower price because they're not fulfilling those standards, they will not be able to compete, and we will be throwing away the opportunity of a great industry to lead the world. Let me just quote you what the Lord Currie, who tabled the amendment in the upper house, in the other house, said. Under the current terms, the Commission will be set up for 6 months, will submit an advisory report to the Secretary of State, presented to Parliament. It will then be disbanded and disappear into the mist. There's no obligation on the Secretary of State to take its recommendations seriously. If we as a government, we as a party, are seriously committed to honouring the commitments, I'd like us to go further. Why don't we, Madam Deputy Speaker, commit to enshrine properly our standards in some form of schedule, the standards that we will not undermine or allow any minister of any government to negotiate away? Why don't we give this House the power to make sure that it can scrutinise properly? And why don't we embrace a policy of trade that is fit for this 50-year opportunity, that puts the British flag at the top of a mast of our standards, and go out into the world and say we'll use our trade leverage, variable tariffs, to support the good benign practices that this world urgently needs?
Carla Lockhart.